You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning. I'm here with Brent Yirkovsky, and he's in charge of all the residential construction at the Watts Group and handles all our new construction projects. Good morning, Brent.
Good morning, Gary.
How are you?
Good, great. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're the first at the Watts Group I had on. What do you think?
I'm extremely flattered that you invited me on, considering the type of guest that you've had on. So I'm extremely flattered.
Yeah, we've had a great group. Well, let's talk about, we're here today to talk about residential construction. Mm-hmm. Before we get going, tell us about, you got a lovely wife named Shayla, you got two beautiful daughters. Give us a little history and tell us about a little more about how you got into construction, went to school, what you did, just what you were thinking when you dove into new construction.
Sure, absolutely. So I kind of been around. I think a lot of people that get into the industry have second, third generation. I think they just kind of grow up being around it. And my dad was a siding contractor. He started his company kind of the same time that you started yours back in the late 70s. And I kind of just grew up around it, working summers, working weekends with him, whether I was picking up nails or grabbing tools from the trailer to bring to the guys. But, I didn't grow up thinking that I was going to get into the construction industry. In fact, I kind of thought that maybe I kind of don't want to get into it and do something else. But
why was that? What did you think of general contractors back then?
Well, I think it's just there's a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into building a house and being a business owner, but also being outside every day, dealing with the elements. It might not sound like it's a stressful job, but having to work through rain, through snow, through cold weather, it's not having a toilet close by sometimes cannot be the most ideal situation. So I think, but being around the industry, kind of gave me a knack. I kind of picked up on it pretty easily just because I kind of watched my dad and watched his employees, have interactions with homeowners, with general contractors, different subs and vendors. So I think when I finally got to college, I didn't really expect going into college to go into construction management. In fact, I started going to get a BA in business administration. But about halfway into my freshman year of college, my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, ended up getting pregnant, and you kind of know this story. So I kind of had to make a decision. My life had to change pretty quick, grow up pretty quick, and mature pretty quick. So ended up enrolling at Kirkwood in the construction management program.
So you started at Loris.
Started Loris.
And then you're playing baseball.
Yep, I played sports throughout high school, junior high, even in Little League. But yeah, I went from Prairie High School, then decided to play baseball at Loris, which at the time was Division III in the Iowa Conference.
What position?
Outfield.
Outfield,
left field. Now, I did grow up. I'm left-handed.
Wrong side of the ball, right?
Right side of the plate, though, closest to first base. Right. But I caught up until my sophomore year of high school.
I
caught. And so
I don't see you as a catcher. I see you as a shortstop.
I think I was the only person that was willing to do it. So I caught it. But I think my sophomore year, I kind of got put on the varsity team, and the coach at the time says, "There's no way I'm going to have a left-handed catcher. Most batters are right-handed, and you're thrown from the wrong side of the plate. You don't have a direct path to second base if someone's stealing. So
you could throw them out at first,
quicker, maybe. So, but yeah, I went to Loris, played baseball that fall, but unfortunately, cut that career short. And like I said, had to find a good career path. And when I got back to town, I grew up in kind of the Cedar Rapids, Swisher-Shoeyville area. Decided to go to enroll in Kirkwood, and kind of had a long conversation with my parents and Shayla at the time, my wife. What path I should take. And Kirkwood had a tremendous construction management program. I mean, not only that, the estimating program, carpentry program, but construction management kind of led me to open the door for a lot more opportunities. And like I said, I didn't anticipate doing that when I was younger, but it seemed to me like it was kind of piqued my interest, and I kind of had a knack for it, going into college.
Let's talk a little bit about Kirkwood, since you mentioned that. I think in the last, 20, 30, 40 years, I know it was a little bit of pressure when I was a kid to get a 4-year degree, and I think most parents want their kids to get a 4-year degree, and I would too, actually. But let's talk about Kirkwood, to where people may miss how important that degree is and get right into the trades. For what you do in construction management, the trades is something not to be overlooked. And I think it gets into, I know a lot of college graduates are working at, not a lot, but working in jobs where they're not really that's not where they were trained to be as far as what they got their education. And the trades have some incredible opportunities. And I really think that kids miss that when they go to school, not to just specialize in knowing that you're going to be a carpenter or a plumber or whatever and get out of school, and what kind of money they can make and how they can support their families. And I think that's really overlooked. Kirkwood has tremendous programs, nursing, construction management. I mean, all kinds of pre-degrees you can get if you come to Iowa and finish up. And it's not to be looked lightly, is it?
No. In fact, Kirkwood is. It's great that it's so close to our vicinity. And I know we have at Watts Group, we do have kind of a relationship with different advisory boards there too to kind of help with their curriculum, but also get interns. Every year we try to get an intern from Kirkwood, because part of that degree that they get, construction management, they're required to have some form of internship, and it's usually lasts 2 to 3 months, and we try to get 1 or 2 a year. So
we've had great interns too.
We did. In fact, 2 of our interns we hired on full time just several years ago. So they're still with us, just in the construction and the construction aspect of Watts Group. But it's not just construction. They have vocational training there. It's auto body work. And that's something that has to be done. I know one of my daughter's friends from high school, he ended up getting a scholarship to go to Kirkwood and major or focus on auto body technician. And the company that paid for that scholarship or that tuition was, I think, Bob Zimmerman or McGrath, the auto body place. And so he had a job lined up before he even stepped foot on campus. As long as he had to do is finish the program. You look
at a mechanic right now. It used to be you could open up the hood. I don't even know what's under the hood. I don't even know it's all diagnostics. You have to plug it into a computer. I just look at those guys. That's high tech.
It is. I mean, even the old engines, back 60s and muscle cars, they're way over my head too. But now with electric cars, it just seems like you need to be specifically trained for that type of product.
And a lot of times you go to school for 4 or 5 years. It costs, I don't know, a couple $100,000, 150. I don't know. It's very expensive to go to school. And what do you do with that general education? I think it's good that you're learning things and you're getting an education. But for the first 2 or 3 years, it's not specific to what you're going to end up doing. And then another thing about Kirkwood, like construction manager, you have on-the-job training. You're out there amongst it. And after a couple of years, it's not that you know everything, but you at least got a taste for what you're going to expect, right?
You got a feel for what the vernacular is, kind of what's going on. You might not be able to do it, but you at least have an idea of kind of what they're doing.
Right. So in our world, I think Kirkwood's an integral part of our world in the trades.
It is.
For mechanical, for electrical, plumbing, all that carpenter, anything, masonry.
In the last few years, I mean, you can talk to any one of our subcontractors or vendors, and it's hard to get not only hire employees but also keep employees. It's a hard field to do on a daily basis, just because you're out in the elements and sometimes it's physical labor, but it's a specialized, and there's an opportunity out there to make a decent amount of money.
Yeah, and you get paid extremely well, I think. I know my father-in-law was a bricklayer, and I think one of the first things he did, he said, "Hey, go grab a wheelbarrow of mud and go down this 2x12 down the basement." And I think I got about halfway there. I'm sure I dumped it, but it's pretty heavy, and you don't realize how strong they are. And then another thing, he said, he was laying bricks on a wall, and I don't know how many he could lay in a day, but it was amazing how many bricks he could lay.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
Did you ever get asked to go find the board stretcher?
No, I haven't done that.
I several times now. I actually will do that every once. I haven't done it recently, but back in the day when I first got started, I was asked to go find the board stretcher.
Now, what's that? Is that like a snipe?
Well, it's a joke. I mean, there's no such thing. I mean, a stud got cut too short, and all of a sudden you've got the veteran asking you, "Hey, go find the board stretcher," and then all of a sudden you're looking around for 2 hours around the trailer, around the job site. We must have lost it. Go down to Payless Cashways and Menards to go find it. Go buy one.
That's like snipe hunting. There aren't any snipes, right? So I remember I'm looking at him lay brick, and he looks at me. I said something like, "Well, that looks easy." So he handed me the trowel, and I'm like trying to put the mud on the side. And anyway, he'd started laying bricks when out of World War II, and he started working on Boys Town in Omaha, all that. And I think he worked in Dubuque. But when you really look at the trades, like a lot of bricklayers, I mean, that's a special art. There's more than just mixing mud and setting that wall straight and making sure it ties together. I mean, there's so much that goes on. So
there's some trades that it's an art form. Drywall, drywall texture and mud and concrete finishing. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that it's more. The longer you do it, the better you are at it. But it's truly it's hard to teach somebody Like, hey, here's what you do, and that's it.
You got to be out in the field.
Yep.
Stamped concrete's another one.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff that can't be. There's concrete countertops. They don't even look like concrete until you try to pick one up. Huh? So okay, now you're at Kirkwood and you get out. Now what are you doing? What's up?
So still working for my dad. You know, I'm still in Kirkwood. Obviously, we're raising a 2-year-old at the time. I think by that time, our oldest one was about 2 years old. So still working for my dad, but I kind of wasn't utilizing that degree. You know, wasn't kind of quite doing what I wanted to do. So I was still in the siding, you know, doing siding, gutters, and roofing. And I wanted to utilize that degree. I knew there was opportunity there, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity there, you know, working for my dad. And just like any other father-son, sometimes, you know, you butt heads up to a certain degree. And so there was a lot of job openings. You know, the residential market in Cedar Rapids, Iowa City market was pretty strong, you know, early 2000s. And put my application out there, my resume out there to several different companies that were hiring. And I ended up getting a call out of the blue from a recruiter in Cedar Rapids.
Huh.
Yeah, and she asked me to come in and say, "Hi, I have this job opening." She didn't really tell me what the job opening was, but she said, "I'd love you to come interview with me." And sat down with her, talked to her, you know, had a great interview. But she calls me a couple of those days later and says, "Hey, unfortunately, you weren't a fit for this company. They kind of decided to go a different direction." And didn't think anything of it, you know. And about 30 days later, I get a call from her saying, "Hey, I think I've got the perfect position for you." And went in there and she said, she didn't really tell me what the job was, but she kind of told me who the company was up in Cedar Rapids. And she said, "I'll tell you what, I'll set up an interview with the general manager of the Cedar Rapids branch there." And ended up going to an interview with him. And it was with a large builder in Cedar Rapids that was doing, you know, close to 150 homes a year.
Wow.
And it was the first position I took kind of in this, you know, obviously working for my dad, but the first position I took, you know, building homes in the residential side, the whole scheme of things, it was a warranty manager. Oh. And so
the fun part.
Yeah. It was good though. That, in all honesty, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that warranty manager position. I still technically do it today, but you learn so much being in the warranty. You know, you have to troubleshoot items, you know, walkthroughs with homeowners, dealing with subcontractors and vendors. I mean, there's a lot that goes into warranty where you don't just go fix something. It's trying to troubleshoot it and make sure that you're holding the subcontractor accountable. But also, if it's not a warranty issue and the homeowner, it's from misuse, homeowner misuse or neglect or abuse, you got to explain that. And so you have some difficult conversations, not only with homeowners, but subcontractors too. So it was a good learning experience doing that.
Well, that's carried into today with the way you think and the way you run your side of the company in residential construction. Take a look at our warranty programs. Like, you know, one of the things that you do a great job with is following up with people, because I think there's nothing worse than spending a bunch of money on a house. You call in, you have an issue, and you can't get it handled.
Yeah, no, I kind of learned that from working for that company. I worked for that company for over 8 years. But you definitely want to build a rapport with those homeowners. I mean, you want to have a relationship. They're our clients, and you want to make sure that they're happy. I mean, because word of mouth is what can kill a builder pretty quick, or any builder. So yeah, you have to be able to communicate and follow through, and that's what it takes, is that follow through. Because trying subcontractor or vendor to go back to fix something that they might have screwed up, it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
In fact, it's probably one of the most difficult things in the residential construction industry is to convince, you know, and coordinate getting a subcontractor back into a homeowner's house.
And you have a full-time department that handles that, and you have weekly sub meetings, right? And
we do.
Tell us what you think about the advantage of that is.
Well, and that's a big thing. So obviously, the company I work for, I was the warranty manager, and we've hired recently at Watts Group a warranty manager. His name's David, and he does a tremendous job of making sure that there's follow through and making sure there's communication, and we're completing those tasks in a timely manner to make sure the homeowners are reasonably, you know, are happy. But we also have subcontractor meetings on a weekly basis where I kind of review the schedule, the build schedule for the week. But David, our warranty manager, will also kind of go over, hey, the painter has this issue. Can you get in there Tuesday? And so it kind of gets that face to face with the subcontractor or with the vendor and say, hey, we've got this issue. When can you do it? You know, instead of playing phone tag or not responding to emails, it's a lot easier to talk to somebody face to face these days.
When they're all in a meeting, you can say, hey, what's
there.
going on over here? So you were at a large builder in the Cedar Rapids area for how long then?
I think going on 8 years.
8 years.
8 years. I think 2004 to 2012.
You started in warranty, then you eventually were the field manager, or you built the houses, or?
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't too long after I started. I was kind of doing kind of custom homes offsite. That builder at the time had several different developments over the Cedar Rapids, Marion area. And, if we get a homeowner that wants to build our floor plan, but somewhere else, I'd be the superintendent or the project manager for that job.
Start to finish.
Start to finish.
Okay. So so that got you your background. So now you're at the Watts Group. When did you start? Tell us about how that went. Didn't we talk about not letting the grass grow up? Or do you remember?
Yeah, I think that was it was day one. I actually might have been in the interview. So yeah, I was lucky enough. One of my former coworkers at the company that I work for up in Cedar Rapids, he actually came down here. Mike came to work for you. Right. I think he was actually previously with you, and then came back down to Iowa City Market to work for Watts Group or Prime Ventures at the time. And about a year and a half after he left the company I was with, he called me up out of the blue and says, "Hey, things are starting to get pretty good now. Iowa City Market's starting to pop a little bit after the recession, and seeing if you'd be interested. We need some help. We're putting a lot of stuff on the ground, and seeing if you'd be willing to come down here and help us out." And I think didn't take much thought. Cedar Rapids Market at the time was still kind of stagnant from the recession, and I set up an interview and came down and met Gary Watts.
Yeah. That was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
Going over a little over 11 years.
Is it really? It seems like the other day. So,
yep.
So you started in the Watts Group. So take us from the start and then what you do now and work us through the process here of all you handle and what you do at the Watts Group.
My role really hasn't changed too much in the last 11 years. I think what's changed is, when I first got hired, is there was 4 or 5 employees with the company, and I think now today there's close to 45, 50. So I think there's just more of a leadership role. We have more employees, help us out in the field, the warranty managers, estimator in the office too. But essentially what I do on a daily basis is we have a construction manager / estimator in the office, and he kind of puts together the plans, the budgets, he accumulates the estimates. And then once we kind of have a plan of attack on what houses we're going to build and where, he submits the permits. And then kind of from there, then it goes into my court. The ball goes into my court where I coordinate, the excavation, the framers, the foundation, the plumbing, the roughing, the drywall. So pretty much once that permit we have approved and the city's approved it and we paid for it, I'm the one that kind of takes over.
So when you get so when Caleb gets you the data or the type of plan you're building, tell us a little bit about. A lot of people don't realize or understand what goes into lot selection. So when you're seeing a walkout versus a non-walkout, how the water flows, getting drainage away from the house, on and on and on, minimum low openings. There's a bunch of stuff. Just because we do a lot of custom homes. The people don't realize that you build a lot of custom homes and built some magnificent houses in the past. Well, they all are, but I mean some things probably north of $1 million or more. Mm-hmm. And people think that I think they think we're a production builder, and we're not. We do a lot of custom work. But just tell us a little bit about somebody like calls in and they're saying, I'm just starting to look. This is what I'm thinking about. Where do you go from there, and especially on lot selection?
Well, the first thing we do is usually if someone calls our office and says, "Hey, I'm wanting to build a house with you guys. I love your product. I love your developments. Love your floor plans." Is we typically try to set up a meeting with them, have them come into the office. They meet with Caleb, who does a tremendous job, showing them different options. And I think the first question we always ask is what's the budget? Where do you want to be? What lot area or what lot or development do you want to be in? But essentially, what's that budget? Because that'll kind of get him going as far as, okay, so we know the selections. If your price point, your budget's $450,000, well, all right, we have floor plans and we have selections that fit within that budget. And so once we know the budget, then kind of that meeting usually lasts maybe 1 to 2 hours, kind of go over what selections they're thinking. But once we put together that budget and kind of talk about a final plan, a floor plan, then we set up another meeting, come back to the office where we kind of finalize, I shouldn't say finalize the selections, but we get started kind of what the allowances are, what the flooring cabinets allowance are.
Back to that first meeting, that's more of a trying to figure out what their wants and needs are.
Yeah.
Just absolutely. To get to know them. How much you want to spend, where do you want to be, which subdivision.
Yeah. Do you want to walk out? Do you want a garden view? Do you want a full basement?
Patio outside, where do you want, it's just what I call a need session. What do you need? And then match that with, and the second one's more of a budget, and here's what you said, here's what we can do.
Yep. And then after we have an idea of what the budget is, what the lot that they want is, and typically we'll go out there and actually make sure, if they're wanting a walkout, even though it might look like it's going to be a walkout lot, there's a lot of different variables involved that kind of can restrict, how high the house can be off the ground, driveway slope, how many steps in the garage do you want, so even though the lot might appear to be a walkout, but the only way to achieve that is to raise the house off the ground. And then all of a sudden, then you have some other questions.
Other issues, steps. Yeah. So people, let's just take that just for example. I'm just trying to get people to understand how difficult it is to build a house and have somebody like you to guide them through the process. So let's say that you are trying to get a zero entry, and you have a lot, and it's a walkout, and you're trying to get a 9-foot wall downstairs. Just give us the thought process of the drainage, the cities impose a minimum low opening, which I think is a good thing to keep the water away from the backside of the house. Tell us the thought process of just let alone the lot selection with what they're telling you they want.
Sure. The zero entry is great. I mean, and we're starting to see a lot of empty nesters kind of finding a place where they know that's going to be kind of their forever home the rest of their days. And so the zero entry is not as easy as you can't just take any lot, pick a lot, and then all of a sudden that floor plan is going to work. So
and zero entry means no steps.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, I should be a little clearer.
I mean, just so some people don't. But you might have a stoop has steps going into
potentially, but usually we try to do the garage floor. The garage floor is level or close to level with the finished floor inside the house.
Because most houses, if you drive in the garage, you're going to probably have a couple steps, couple risers into the house. So yeah, especially for empty nesters, just walk right in, which is pretty cool. And you don't see that enough.
You don't. We do. We try to implement that as much as we can. Yeah. So we're doing a production homes. We want to try to make sure that we're having a couple lots or a couple floor plans that incorporate the zero entry. But when you add a zero entry to a house, all of a sudden now you're making the driveway a foot higher, a foot more steep, or you're raising the house, and so all of a sudden the basement or lowering the house, so the driveway's not as steep, and now the walkout is lower. So then that comes into play as the minimum low opening elevation. So there's engineering involved on a development to make sure that if something does happen, if there's a 100-year or a 500-year event, or if a storm sewer block gets clogged up, that water, when it does back up, doesn't reach inside the garage door or inside a window in the lower level or something like that.
So let's hit MLO again, and we call it MLO. It's minimum low opening. So homeowners who would be driving around there, they don't even know what you're talking about. So cities impose those onto a subdivision. So when you're shooting an elevation and getting ready to build a home, you have to be above the MLO.
Well, we need to know what that MLO is, and that's something that's very, very important too.
And tell us more what that does for stormwater, what could happen, 5-inch rain, where the water's coming off the driveway, and eaves troughs. Just tell us a little more about that, because people don't understand it at all.
I guess maybe the easiest way for listeners to kind of understand is, say, for instance, there is a retention basin in development, and that retention basin can only hold so much water. And that normal water level of that retention basin is, let's say it's X amount. And you got to make sure, but if that retention basin, if it rains and then it continues to rain for days and days and days, that retention basin will continue to fill up.
Right.
But sooner or later, that water's got to go somewhere. All right. So is your house low enough that if that retention basin eventually gets to a certain point, is it going to come in the house, or is it going to go over some type of levee or overflow?
Right.
And that's usually that overflow is dictating what the MLO is.
And the overflow is on a stormwater catch basin.
Yep.
It doesn't catch it all, and it goes overflow, so it has to have an overland flow rate. It goes into a stormwater pond.
Yep.
So
or drains into a creek, an adjoining creek. We try to keep most municipalities try to they want to keep most of the stormwater on site. They want to keep it into development.
Right.
And so once we know that MLO, we want to make sure. And usually that overland flow, if it is an overland flow dictating the MLO, usually that MLO is about a foot to a foot and a half higher than that overland flow. And so we obviously we want to be not only above that MLO, but in some, just in case there's a kind of an extreme circumstance.
Right. Well, another thing about lots people wouldn't realize, do you ever worry about compaction, or what kind of dirt you got there, or what soil samples, or how? Because people think, you just dig a hole and slap a footing in it.
And we kind of battle that from time to time. I mean, developments, they're not always perfectly flat, and they're not always virgin soil. So when you start adding streets to it and kind of getting walkouts, all of a sudden you're raising that elevation of that street. And so when you go to put your foundation in, you're on non-virgin soil. You're on compacted fill, and that's kind of what the grading contractor does during the development stage. But it's still non-virgin soil. So when we know we kind of hit soils that are sandy or not compacting very well, we hire a third party to come in and actually do a soil engineer to come in and do a compaction test to make sure that the soil is strong enough, for the pound per square foot, I think is what they call it, the PSF, to make sure that it can hold the weight of the building long term.
So just even as we just talked, as of right now, you're driving down a street and you look at that house. I'd like to build that house. We're just starting. We're just digging a hole, and look at what the thought process went into it.
Yeah. We have, and there's another 6 months, to building the house.
I mean, and that's the thing. That's why you let a professional like you handle it. But we're just starting with the elevation of where it needs to be set, and whether it's a walkout, whether it's a zero entry, and look at all the things that are going into this.
Yep. That's just at the beginning stage of it. I mean, there's a lot more goes into it. A lot more goes into it, throughout the whole process. Right.
So you have your kind of your needs session. You meet the couple or the folks or whatever, the client. You re-meet, you go through, and usually the budget isn't enough. Usually people don't realize how expensive it is to build.
And we try to go over change orders. Homeowners, obviously, when they see something, they might change their mind, or they might, before it goes in, they change their mind. And we want to leave the homeowners, or give the homeowners the opportunity to be able to make sure that they're happy with the home. But yeah, so it's that selection meeting kind of is not really a final, but it does kind of set this, set the base on what we're going to build the house off.
I've always told people, and I've been doing this a long time, is put as much as you can in the house, spend as much as you think you can, maybe spend a little more, because what's the value of that house going to be 10, 15, 20 years down the road?
The values of houses haven't gone down in a very, very long time.
Yeah, and we had to slow down 7, 8, 9, but it never really dropped. Values deflated. It just kind of leveled off. So the costs of materials are going up, things are going up. But while you're waiting, for whatever reason, you just lost a bunch of equity in your house. And the best way to build equity, I think, is new construction in a new subdivision. One of the first ones in, you can pick some of the best lots. And then the only negative is you have a little bit of construction going on around you. But if you can live with that and then you stay there for quite a while, you're going to have some incredible inflation.
Yeah, and the developments these days too is there's just tremendous amenities to most developments. And I know at Watts Group we kind of focus a lot on the developments themselves. We've got several that have ponds and fountains and walking trails, access to walking trails, dog parks. Right. So I mean we try to focus, because you're not just buying that house, you're not just buying that floor plan, you're not just buying the countertops. Right. You have to live there. You have to get out of your house sooner or later, and so you have to walk around the neighborhood and meet people.
What are the amenities?
Yeah, what are the amenities? And we try to do almost like a park-like setting in a lot of our developments, where we're planting a lot of trees, a lot of like I said, pond fountains, stocking ponds where you can access to fish.
Kayaks, I guess we got to have a kayak.
We have a development in North Liberty that even has a dock,
launch,
and a kayak launch.
Yeah, I had to have the launch because I couldn't stand up and get out of a kayak. So now you can just slide into it.
Makes it easier to get up and out of it.
Tell us a little bit about how you look at covenants, because from a development perspective, developers have to have covenants. The reason they have covenants in hand to keep the value there, to know that if your neighbor goes here, they can only do certain things. It kind of restricts what you can and can't do. Sure. And then when you buy in a subdivision, you know what to expect. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't even know, what are you talking about covenants? So as a builder of these houses, do you look at covenants? What are you looking at? How do you interpret covenants?
Yeah, I mean, covenants are extremely important, and I think, and that going back to the pre-planning stage, that covenants are written before the development's even pretty much even started or close to being finalized. So I mean, you want to make sure you're maintaining the property values. You want to make sure that you're building a quality product throughout the entire development, throughout the life of the development.
Right.
And so that way, everybody, if you're the first homeowner to live out there, you kind of, if you have covenants in place, kind of the type of product or type of homes that are going to be built in that area. Where if there's no covenants, all of a sudden there could be something different, completely opposite of what you've built, sitting right next to you.
So covenants might look at roofs. They might look at size of house. They might look at colors of homes. They might look at just about everything that would go into it. Fencing, landscaping, all that.
Square footage of say a ranch or a two-story. How much stone or brick needs to be on the front elevation of the home. So there's a lot that goes into it, but.
And each of our subdivisions would have a little different twist on the covenants, right? Yep. Do you want to? Okay, so now you're. We talked a little bit about, you met the couple, you went through, you've agreed to pricing, you go to a contract, you put some money down, and now you're starting to build. And we talked about lot selection. Now take us through the building process here. Let's say you've dug the hole, you got it set up, you got the foundation going, and then talk about your engagement with the homeowner as they go down the road. What you're doing over the next 6 months, roughly the build time. Give us from your perspective as a general manager of residential construction, what are you doing?
So I mean, we try to stay in constant communication with homeowners, the buyers of our houses. During that whole process, it's a pretty big. It can be a stressful experience for a lot of homeowners. It's a big purchase for a lot of people, and so we do a lot of pre-planning. So those meetings with Caleb, who does an awesome job as far as, selections and kind of going through the fine details. So that way, when it comes into my, when I start building it, I have a lot of those details.
Right.
But we do set up several meetings throughout the construction process with every homeowner while we're building it. And typically the first one is right after the framing is completed and before the electricians or the plumbers start. We call it an electrical trim walkthrough or electrical walkthrough. And so we kind of meet with the homeowners to make sure, one, that they have their light fixtures placed where they want them, outlets placed where they need them, switches placed where they like them, but also just kind of go over different options too. I mean, even where do you want your hose? Most people don't think about it, but you have a exterior lawn faucet or a hose bin.
Yeah.
Where do you want that? Yeah. What's most convenient for you?
Can you raise them up? Mine's so low, I got to bend over and get down. Getting old.
Well, surprisingly enough, and a lot of people don't know this, you're limited on where exactly you can put those because they have to be frost protected. So they go into the house 8 to 10 inches, and so you can't just stick them anywhere on a wall.
Right. I just wondered about that.
No, you got it. You're limited. You're not. You have options, but
so you have electrical walkthrough. So now they're getting specific in their bathroom. I want a couple circuits here I can plug in.
You want an extra outlet for a blow dryer, or you want an extra outlet or a deep freezer in the basement or the garage, or a charger. A lot of people are doing cordless vacuum cleaners, so they need an outlet in, say, a pantry or the laundry room to charge that vacuum.
So does that part where you get into security and the security systems you're doing now, is that an electrical walkthrough?
It is. We're starting to do a lot more smart home features and security features in our homes. Even our production or spec houses, we try to incorporate that in a good percentage of our homes, where we kind of do the hard part, which is the rough in. So a lot of our houses, we're putting in a secure or control panel that kind of monitors the thermostat, the deadbolts, door sensors. And then usually our electrician then will, again, put door sensors on. So if somebody opens up a door, you could get a notification on your phone that, hey, your door's open, or the garage door opened, or, hey, your thermostat got below a certain temperature. And if you have the app downloaded and you've subscribed to it, you have a lot of different options on what you can do.
You're out of town, you're coming home, you can turn the heat up. Or turn it down.
Or know if the furnace is malfunctioning or the AC is malfunctioning, because it's pretty important in the middle of the winter to make sure you have heat in the house.
It's not that expensive. I'd say, why not? Why not do it?
No, and right now, what not to promote Watts Group, but we are doing that security or those smart home features. And right now, there's a kind of a limited free trial for 36 months for all of our homeowners, all of our buyers, where they have wireless access or Wi-Fi access to their thermostat and their deadbolts and those door sensors too. So there's other things you can add onto it. You can add on, sensors for the smoke detectors, or if there's a leak in the house. You can have a sensor next to a water heater where if it senses water, it'll give you a notification. But there's also security features too. So if one of those sensors, door sensor, goes off, well, then it might call a company called alarm.com, and then alarm.com then will either call the homeowner or they'll call, emergency services, the fire department, the police department.
That's cool. So now electrical walkthrough, what's the next step? You've been through that. You're drywalling.
Yep, we're drywalling, and then usually after drywall, you have paint. Then flooring comes in, and then right after flooring gets completed, that's usually when we start to trim, which is setting the cabinets, the doors, the trim around the entirety of the house. And usually that's when we meet with the homeowners again. We kind of want to make sure that we're, if there's a fireplace mantle, what kind of design do they have? They're kind of inspired, what they want for it. Or if there's a locker when you come in and off the mudroom, do they have a drop zone with to hang coats, to hang bags, charging stations. So we try to meet with the homeowners, with the trim carpenter, to kind of make sure that what they're envisioning is what we actually put in the house.
You said initially up front they do selections. Do you take them around to the flooring people and
trim
people and the door people and the window people and the color?
Yeah, we have somebody on staff. Her name is Kelsey. She's kind of, or we call her a designer, but really she's almost like a customer liaison. I mean, she really, once we have a homeowner make have a lot reservation, and then they want to meet with the flooring contractor, or meet with the cabinet supplier, the trim supplier, the countertop, the light fixtures. She kind of accompanies them on a lot of those meetings, so that way it's all documented. And she has a great taste, and she does a lot of the selections that we do for our spec homes, and so she wants to make sure everything is kind of flowing and making sure that we're moving in a quick pace too, because everything is. To try to get somebody in and out of, into a house, there's got to be some quick decisions made.
Well, a lot of times a homeowner doesn't understand the sequencing and how you have to constantly be making decisions. If you get a bunch of them done up front, it's great. But when we start in production, we start to build it. There's a lot of coordination. And when you ask them for a decision, if they're making a change, for example, you got to have it a certain time frame. Otherwise, it throws off our possessions.
You know, that trim walkthrough that we do with the homeowners and the trim carpenter. I mean, he's the one that usually sets the vanity mirrors, you know, the bathroom mirrors, but he also sets the towel bars, the toilet paper holders, the robe hooks, that type of thing. And we kind of go over that with the homeowner to make sure we're placing them where they want them, because
the height
or location. You know, if you want a toilet paper holder, well, okay, do you want it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side? Most people don't think about
Where's
that.
Yours? You're left-handed. Is it on the right?
Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is most people don't think they're going to have to make that decision, but it's something that we try to ask every homeowner.
Right.
Because I'd hate to have the homeowner say, "No, I don't want it over there. I want it over here." Then all of a sudden we've got repairs to make.
So you do drywall, you're doing the finish. Now what happens? Let's say you're getting close to you're done. Do you meet them again?
We do. In fact, it's something that kind of we pride ourselves on is we try to do. Most people call it a walkthrough, but I like to call it a homeowner orientation.
All right.
Because we spend a lot of time. It's usually about a week or so before closing. We kind of schedule time with the homeowner to meet, and usually we set aside about an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes they go longer, sometimes they go shorter. But we really dive into kind of the warranty process. Since we have a warranty manager on staff that does a great job, we want to make sure, if this happens, how to get a hold of us. Who do you contact?
Right.
But also, I mean, things do pop up. It's a new home, so there's going to be potentially some growing pains. There might be a door that warps or drywall cracks. So we want to make sure that if something happens on a night or a weekend, say the furnace, something happens with the furnace, we want to make sure they have contact information for the HVAC contractor or the plumbing contractor to get that problem resolved quickly.
So you're going to take care of issues immediately. Then you're going to have some you just make a list, and you're not going to be out there like every day, right, or every month.
No, usually. So at that home orientation, if there's some punch list items that we need to take, you know, we're marking up paint touch-ups and drywall touch-ups if need be. Try to get those taken care of before closing, so that way, you know, we don't have to try not to come back to a homeowner's house, a house after they've moved in. But once that homeowner gets moved in, then usually, you know, I kind of say, hey, if they're non-emergent items, if they're kind of normal items and we kind of prepare them, like, hey, this is what could pop up or this what could pop up. We kind of compile a little bit of a list and say, hey, email us that list or mail us that list, you know, 30 days, 60 days. So that way, you know, we can try to take care of, you know, if there's 3 or 4, try to take care of them all at once instead of coming out, you know, 3 times or 4 times throughout that first 2 months.
And sometimes it comes right down to the wire where you're cleaning it that morning of it. You do the inspections, and it takes a lot of things to get it done, right?
It does. It does. I've kind of, and you might have heard me say this. It is easy to build a house. It's easy to close a house.
Right.
To get to that, it's easy to get to that 95% of construction, but that last 5%, making sure the homeowner's happy, making sure the lender's happy, making sure the buying agent's happy, making sure everybody's happy. It takes a lot of effort, and we have a great team at Watts Group with not only David, our warranty manager, Caleb in the office, but we have a couple guys out in the field that help us, you know, make sure and ensure that those items get taken care of.
Paint touch-up, extra sweeping here and there, cleaning, wiping down things. Just because I think the way you approach things is that you're selling that house to your grandmother. Yeah. You want to make sure that that's how you want to be treated, you and Shayla. And so when you see them in Hy-Vee or down the road a year from now, you can say hi to them, and they're not running and hiding.
Absolutely.
Because you want to make sure that that's your name and reputation on the line. You're not going to have it perfect. Nothing in the house is perfect, but they know they can reach out to you and get things handled.
It's having that making sure the homeowner is comfortable reaching out to us instead of them reaching out to their agent after they moved in. It's like, hey, no, you don't need to. You can reach directly out to us because we'll take care of you.
I think another advantage for your group and the Watts Group is you have the ability, and we have a lot of subdivisions, and you have somebody might come out and look at a house here but want it modified. So it's kind of like a semi-custom, but it's actually a custom. I would rather have this lot, and we could just pick and choose, and you could add a screened-in porch, or you could do this or add or subtract, or maybe I don't want to finish a basement. So what's nice is we have existing inventory too. So when you come to work in a day, you've got the custom. We just kind of work through the custom process. And then tell us about your spec world or the world and all the subdivisions and the 4 or 5 subdivisions you work out of. How do you coordinate and set up the specs that are going to be there for the spring market or whatever market you're trying to take?
We're kind of in, it's May or June right now, and we're kind of in the process of kind of planning those starts for next spring. Because in this market, the majority of the homes that that a buyer is going to purchase, they're going to want to move in usually April, May, or June.
So you're forecasting for next spring already?
Oh, already.
You
Absolutely.
might even be forecasting a year or 2 down the road from that, right?
Yep.
I mean, just
different developments and what we're putting in those developments that might not come online or be available for a year or two.
So what are you thinking about now? You're thinking about what starts where, lining up crews, framers. Tell us about framers, sequencing. where siders are all going to get busy. How do you handle all that?
That's one of the biggest challenges. Building a house is making sure that you can put together a schedule. You have subs lined up to do the work, but you got to hold them. Or they say they're going to start on Monday.
Right.
Comes Monday and they're not there yet. You're making that call because
Right.
you have deadlines. I mean, you got to
Right.
make sure that house is ready on a spec house. You got to make sure it's ready to go next spring.
Right.
So you are constantly on the phone. I mean, that's probably. I don't think I've charged my electric drill or my cordless drill in the last 2 years, just because my phone is the best tool that I have. You're constant communication with subcontractors, but coordinating, siders, framers, it's because their job is dictated by the weather. They might not be able to finish the job because it rained for the last 2 days, or they're citing, the job wasn't ready before us, that wasn't ready for them. So it's a constant fluid schedule, but I almost carry every house that we build. I try to carry that schedule out for 30, 60, 90 days, and I go to the day. Like if I have a framer starting, I know he told me he's starting July 1st, I'm doing everything I can to ensure that foundation is ready to go for that framer to start July 1st. Now he might start July 2nd or July 5th, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that it's ready to go when he says he's ready.
I think you would attest that we have a great pool of subcontractors, had them for lots of years. And I think that part of it is the reason why we keep such a good group is because you're on schedule. And I think it's nothing worth talking in the subcontracting world. Well, you show up and it's not ready for me. Mm-hmm. Well, they got to go somewhere else, find other work. And I think by that weekly meeting that you have and the rapport with subs is huge in a watch development.
Yeah, and I don't want to be that builder that says, hey, something's ready, and they show up and it's not. Because that costs, it could cost the builder money, but it's definitely going to cost that subcontractor, that vendor money. So we want to build that relationship with subs, and we make sure that things are ready to go when we say they're going to be ready to go.
So I want to try to get people to appreciate what's going on in your mind. So on a weekly basis, when you're in prime time, you're getting ready for starts, how many spec houses or how many homes do you have in process at one time? How many customs? On an annual basis, I want people to realize what kind of work are you coordinating?
I think the last few years, we were close to 100 homes, 90 to 95, or 95 to 100 doors.
I got to stop you there. Most people that build one house lose their minds, or end up in the hospital or something because of the amount of stress and the coordination, and you pretty much alleviate that for our homeowners. So that's why I'm trying to get into how you think and whatnot. Yeah. But I mean, the amount of coordination, I don't think people have any idea what you do, and then in your mind, you're coordinating all those job sites.
Yeah, and not only just on and
do you drink, by the way?
No, try to stay away from it. But not only are you coordinating the daily, what's happening on that job site, because everything you're going to run into issues. So you're dealing with the day-to-day issues. Yeah. But I'm also looking 30 days, 60 days ahead to make sure that guy that's on the job site today gets done when he says he's going to get done, to ensure that the drywaller starts when I told him he's going to start. So,
and part of that is, from subcontractors, I don't really get ever any feedback that they're upset with you or whatever. I think they kind of know you have a way of handling it. It's very professional. You hold them accountable, but then they know that if they're going to show up and work, you got it ready for them. So I think it's kind of a mutual
There
thing.
is. I mean, we have a great stable of subcontractors, and we have a really good partnership with all of our vendors and our subcontractors. That there's some flexibility there, but also we say if we're going to do something, we do it, and we hold them accountable too to make sure that they do the same thing. Right. So when you're doing 100 homes or 90 homes a year. And usually we're not scattered. We don't have 10 homes going this month, 10 homes. Right. It's usually 60, 70 homes going all at once at different stages of construction. So I have to trust, my team, but also the subcontractors, that they are on site doing what needs to be done, and they have the correct information that they need to do their job too.
So in a way, the subcontractors are our partners.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way that we would build a house unless we had the relationships that we do with all of our subcontractors.
And there's an amazing amount of coordination, but we get her done.
We do.
And another thing is, if you say you're going to have it done, then you will. Obviously, we have a contract.
Yep.
And we adhere to our contracts, but that's why you always have a deadline. That's why when you show up and we're talking about, I got to have you this date, you need to have them at that date. Otherwise, it causes the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got homeowners that have a lease to get out of, or they're selling their house, they have to be out.
They're moving in. They're coming from California. They got the U-Haul out front.
Yep. Yeah, knock on wood, we have...
Is this wood?
I have yet, or Watts Group has yet to not hit a closing date. And hopefully that never happens. But
Yeah.
we did have one potentially pop up a couple years ago where it was more during the pandemic, and we had severe supply chain issues.
Yeah.
And the buyer picked out a specific type of tub that they wanted to make sure that they have it. And we accommodated it. We wanted to make sure she did get it, but unfortunately the back order on that tub was just so long. But they were flexible enough, and they didn't have to be forced to be out of their current residence.
But just briefly on supply chain, because I want to get into that, because that was just the pandemic. Supply chains was hard on all of us in construction. You fought through it. We worked through it. We had garage doors that didn't really match, but we got them. We got temporaries up. We tried to accommodate people. And then another thing is I think the public was great too. They understood the issues with the supply chain. They understood the pandemic, the workforce.
Yeah, there was very little pushback from homeowners. Like, hey, we're missing the garage door, we're missing we can't get the screens or cabinet hardware, or the countertop in the bathroom's missing, or fixtures missing. There was. I think nationally everybody was dealing with it, and so everybody was aware, and for the most part everybody was understanding about it.
Well, let's talk about something that's coming up that's near and dear to our hearts. I think this weekend's the Parade of Homes, and then maybe we could have Austin pull up some things of our subdivisions and where our homes are. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Parade of Homes and what we have out there, and what's your thoughts on the Parade of Homes for all builders?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, the Parade of Homes, obviously, it's not an actual parade. There's not Shriners driving around mini bikes or Miss Iowa.
They got those little fire trucks and stuff.
Yeah, Miss Iowa on the back of a Corvette. It's really the opportunity for homeowners or anybody in general to do a self-guided tour of a lot of different houses. Okay. And so the Parade of Homes really is kind of a showcase for builders and also remodelers in the area. To have their houses open. Some houses are still for sale. Some houses already have offers on them, or they're going to be closing soon. But it really gives an opportunity for, if you're looking to go out and build a house this year or next year, gives you kind of an opportunity to look at different builders, different developments, different floor plans, different trends.
Right.
But even if you're remodeling, kind of gives you the opportunity to look at, if you're going to remodel your existing home, different opportunities to, whether you're doing it yourself or you're going to hire somebody.
When's it start? This Saturday or Friday?
It does. It starts technically it kicks off tomorrow with a builder's tour, kind of the people that are in the HBA, the Iowa City HBA, kind of tour the homes. But really, it's open to the public starting Saturday at, I think it's 10 a.m. Okay. And it runs Saturday and Sunday this weekend. Then it runs Tuesday and Thursday evening, and then the following weekend as well.
And what do you have on the parade?
Austin has pulled up the development we call the Preserve. Okay. This is in the North Liberty, so this is kind of on the corner of Kansas Avenue and St. Andrews Drive, really close to the interstate, right across the street from Green State Credit Union. Okay. So we have one home in the parade this year in this development. It's at 730 South Alexander. And you can kind of see what's really nice about this development.
It's on the park, right?
Yeah, this house backs directly up to Centennial Park. And Centennial Park, I mean, right now, it seems like North Liberty, it's a fairly new park. And it seems like North Liberty every couple of years is adding to it, adding to the trails that are walking through it, adding to, I think they added a rock climbing, area the other day or last year. And I think there's some information that we actually have in our parade that North Liberty is intending on doing an amphitheater, I think an event center.
For the Blues Fest and whatever. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And one thing really cool, and one thing I try to go to every year is the Blues and Barbecue Fest, which I think is coming up, I think in July. But it's a really cool time where they have entertainers, playing blues, but they also have a lot of food vendors too. Yeah. And this house has direct access to it. I mean, we have not only this house, but the entire development in the preserve. There's trails that go to the park and tie into the existing trails in Centennial.
So this house is on the parade. Right?
It is. Yeah, this is what we call our McGraw floor plan. It's a little less than 1,600 square feet with a finished basement. Or 1,500, 1,600 on the main, but it does have a finished basement. But this has been a very, very popular floor plan for us over the last few years. It's ranging. I think the price point on it is somewhere between $550 to $575.
Okay.
But
and
it's
a
beautiful
park. Plan. In a great location. If you're working in Cedar Rapids or Iowa City, you're in between.
Yeah, you've got direct access to the interstate. I mean, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. Right. And again, this is the development too that we have a couple ponds, and one of them has a dock and a kayak ramp.
There you go. Yeah. So let's look at our next one. Is that in Solon?
Yep.
A new one. So, tell us about Solon.
Sure. So Solon, this is a new development, and we kind of just started building homes in there actually, I think it was the day before Thanksgiving last year. So it was kind of a late fall, early winter start. But this is a new development. It's kind of off of Highway 382. It's kind of, I think that would be kind of the northwest corner of Solon heading towards Ely, kind of McBride State Park and the golf course.
Right.
But we have this development is an awesome development. We've got 2 ponds in there, both have fountains. There's a dog park that the city maintains that has direct access from this development, but it also has access to the Cedar Valley Trail. And that Cedar Valley Trail that I know you use, I know I use, especially up in Cedar Rapids, but it goes from Solon, starting in the south end, all the way up to Evansdale, which is close to Waterloo.
I mean, 80 miles?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
So you could jump on a bike on this trail and go for 4 or 5 hours all the way up to Waterloo. But
and of course, you can stop in Cedar Rapids at the Sag Wagon.
There's in Cedar Rapids. There's usually a bar every few blocks, which is usually a fun time.
Yeah, it is.
But this is kind of this is a similar floor plan. It's the McGraw, but there's a lot of different variations. We try not to build. We have a handful of floor plans. We have close to 10 to 15 different floor plans that we utilize on a daily basis. But we also try to do customization as much as we can as well. We have a great team of designers that we use in the Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, Iowa City market. So we kind of change things up. No one of our 2 homes is exactly the same, whether it might be the same floor plan, but we always change little things here and there, move walls, different selections, that type of thing.
This house is a walkout, and the expanse of the backyard is just incredible.
Yeah.
And then it goes into like common space of 20, 30 acres.
Yeah, so I think this particular lot is a little bit less than a half an acre.
Yeah.
And there is, behind this is an outlot. There's a creek that runs through there. You can see the tree line here. But yeah, there's a beautiful view from this lot. And almost every lot in this development has some form of view, whether it's a pond or whether it's privacy because you're up against an outlot or woods. It's just a tremendous development that we're all excited about.
And if you have a golf cart, you can just hop in because Solon's golf cart friendly and take the trail right to the high school or junior high or church, St. Mary's churches.
It's crazy that I didn't realize this till not too long ago that if you jump on the trail access from this development, you're right there next to the baseball field, football field. So,
which by the way, the baseball field, it's the finest baseball field
They do a
I've ever
really
seen
good job of taking care
in
of
a state.
It seems like every time I'm driving right by it, there's somebody usually mowing it or checking the sprinklers. They're maintaining it pretty
There's
well.
no weeds. I mean, there isn't one in the whole deal. It's a beautiful ball time. And a great little park there in Solon. If you, by the round barn there down below the trail, if you come into Solon.
And so there's another trail that this ties into too, the Solon, I think it's called the Solon Rec Trail.
Right, goes to McBride along.
Starts in Solon and goes all the way to McBride State Park.
Great, good stuff. So anyway, we got the parade of homes. What other subdivisions you want to mention real briefly?
Sure. Well,
where else are you building?
Going back to the parade of homes, I just want to give a shout out to the Iowa City Home Builders Association. Carol is the executive director, our executive officer there. She does a tremendous job coordinating and making sure everything kind of goes seamless. So, kudos to Carol and the parade member or the board members and the parade committee members with the Iowa City HBA. But yeah, we have, we don't just have Solon Trail Ridge Development in the preserve. We have a development in Iowa City called West Side Estates, which is off of Raritt Road, kind of close to Weber Elementary. We've been there for a few years, and we're getting really close to being completed there. I think there's only a handful of lots left, but even the ones that are left, they're really good. I mean, there's still a lot of privacy and outlots behind them, so it's a really good development. We also have another one in Tiffin. We have 2 in Tiffin. One's called Ridgeway Heights. Again, that's another development we started a few years ago, and we're down to a handful of lots.
North side of Tiffin.
Yep, on the north side of Tiffin, just kind of right off of Oakdale Boulevard.
Okay. And isn't Tiffin amazing?
Oh,
I think of Tiffin 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then what's going on at Clear Creek Schools, Tiffin?
Oh, the growth in Tiffin has been amazing. I know they've kind of been growing tremendously for the last 10, 15 years.
Unbelievable.
But just now,
housing.
kind of there's a fairway in town. Yeah. There's a couple restaurants, and then what's kind of opening up right along the interstate, there's a place called Pin Seekers, which is similar to kind of Top Golf, where you can go have drinks and food with friends and hit kind of somewhat of a driving range, but play games. It's awesome that it's coming to the area.
I see they're putting the poles up along the freeway, and those are really high. I don't know if I could hit it that high.
I bet there's some balls might find their way to the interstate.
Yeah. So you got Tiffin and then Pinnacle Ridge, as you mentioned?
Yeah, another development in Tiffin called Pinnacle Ridge. And again, that's another one we started a few years ago, and we're down to our last 3 lots there.
And that has an HOA, it maintains your house. You don't have to scoop snow.
Yeah. It's a neat development where it's condos. They are single family. There's some duplexes mixed in there, but they're single family standalone homes, but they're technically in a condo association. So you don't do your snow removal, you don't do your yard maintenance or lawn maintenance.
Great.
So there's some dues that are involved, but it's a really nice private development, but it turned out very, very nice.
What's going on? I see you guys are moving to Ely, Founders Grove, and then on up to Cedar Rapids, C Street. You got some things.
Yeah, so we have two new developments that are going to be hopefully opening up here within the next few months. One is Founders Grove in Ely. It's kind of on the east side of town.
Okay.
It's got close to, I think, 150 to 200 doors in that development, which is finalized. But City of Ely, I mean, you can see it's growing. It's in the College Community School District. There's a great neighborhood there. I mean, it's one of those neighborhoods, and I think you've said this, that when you're driving through there, almost everybody waves to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody waves to you.
And great kolaches and great ice cream.
Yeah, there's a really good bakery there. Well, Dan and Debbie's the ice cream, but there's a really good bakery there called My Mom's Bakery that has some of the best kolaches around.
So that's why, like, if I ride my bike from my house and I get to Ely, then I can have a couple scoops of ice cream, then ride back.
Pick up some cheese curds too.
Right,
while you're there. So and then we have another development that is 4plexes and 3plexes that we're putting. It's really just on the east side of Kirkwood campus. Right off of C Street, so it has really close access to College Community School District, really good access to the interstate, the airport, and also Highway 30.
Great.
So,
well, listen, this has been fun, and if people can't figure it out by listening to us, what you do is amazing. You're the best at it. I've never seen anybody even comes close to you and your whole group and your team.
Yeah, no, and we have an awesome group at Watts Group. You know, not just on the construction side, but all entities part of Watts Group is just a tremendous team.
And I'd say a lot of growth in the companies because of your group. It's just amazing. Not only does your group do amazing, we have a commercial division that does wonderful, and you still there's a lot of coordination between commercial and residential.
There is.
On the same type, we use a lot of the same subs, and so we didn't even talk about that, but. I think the main thing is congratulations on what you do. It's amazing to be able to keep your mindset the way it is. It's always even keel. Never have to think about it. And homeowners would just line up to talk about how wonderful you are, and they do. We hear it all the time from real estate agents, and I think that's nice to know that when real estate folks bring us deals and we put things together, they know you're going to take care of them.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to me too because as of right now, I moved into one of our developments.
Right,
and I've speak to the homeowners that I've met before, and
great.
I want to make sure that I have that relationship and making sure that I'm not ashamed to live in one of our houses or speak to a homeowner.
And you want to hit the dates on Parade of Homes? And
So I think it starts this Saturday. It ends the following Sunday. But we have 2 homes. But whether you're a homeowner or a potential buyer looking to build a new home, remodel a house, or just even looking for something to do, the weather's going to be great. Looks like the weather's going to be great this weekend and the weekend after. So feel free to come on out, and we'd love to see you. And I know our team and myself will be sitting in our house, so be happy to say hi to everybody.
So the Preserve, it's just next to Centennial Park.
Yep.
Which is on the west side of North Liberty near the Credit Union.
Yep, right off Forever Green Interchange, Kansas Avenue and St. Andrews Drive.
Then in Solon, we're just west of town, about a mile or 3/4 of a mile toward Lake McBride in Ely.
Yep, right off Highway 382.
Yep, great. Hope to see you there. Thanks, Brent. It's been fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.